So, can you guys hear us now? I hear you and see, so I can hear us. It says, we just can't hear you guys.
Okay, well, maybe you fire the questions by typing them in, and then we'll carry on because we can't hear.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear us now?
We can hear you now.
Yeah, awesome.
Helps when you turn your microphone on.
Right, so welcome. Welcome from, where are you? The Business Lounge in Gatwick or Heathrow?
We're in Gatwick, just one of the lounges.
Yeah.
The quiet.
Yeah.
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Right, so we've got a small group here today. Others are turning up late. Everyone, please, hello.
Hello. Hey, guys.
Emmanuel, if you could introduce yourself or introduce Brett and vice versa, go ahead, please.
Okay, well, this is Brett Alegre. I met Brett last year in Singapore at the Singapore Grand Prix. He has an amazing business in property. He has a company that sells property off-plan to investors throughout the world in the UK. He's selling roughly about 1,200 properties per annum. He's built up his business from scratch. He lives most of the time in Singapore. He spends a couple of weeks in the UK, a couple of weeks in Singapore, travels a lot. We're going to Spain this weekend to catch up. Amazing guy, amazing talents. He knows so much about property, completely different area to what I've actually been involved in. So he's somebody that's actually worth listening to. You can actually go on his own podcasts and webinars. He has a lot of great information that you can actually learn from. One of his companies called Gladfish, but he'll tell you more about that in a second. So over to you.
Yeah, cool. So where do I start? I've been doing property for over 2 decades now. Really, it's the thing I wake up in the morning and think about, if you know what I mean. I've been that way for a very long time. But actually, property is not really the passionate thing I'm about. It's more about what property can give for people. Because having been in it for so long, I've seen it achieve so much for so many people. And, like no other industry and like no other asset class. So, I'm sold on it. I love it. I actually, I live in Singapore. My businesses are in the UK, Singapore, Australia, and I travel lots. But, really what it's been able to do, property for me, not only my personal portfolio, but my businesses, is give me the lifestyle that I choose. I've got 4 kids under 7. I live in Singapore, but we've got, a house in Australia, a house in Spain, a house in that, all that sort of stuff. And it's got, all that. I don't have Ferraris and all that sort of stuff like this, man. Mainly because you can't fit kids in a Ferrari. So do we want to get into the specifics of property? Because I'm sure you guys are keen to learn that. You don't want to hear about me talking about myself all the time, but yeah.
Before we start, just so you guys realise, people from Australia, like Ash and Brett, have no dress sense. You probably notice what they wear. But they're still great guys, regardless of how they dress.
The secret is we don't need it.
It's
More than handsome as well.
Get it today.
So why don't you guys fire maybe some questions, and we'll try and answer the questions based. So what I'd suggest is somebody in the room answers a question. Ash, you repeat it so we can hear it properly, and either Brett or myself will actually try to cover it.
Okay, so we'll do a Q&A first. And what we're trying to do is a strategy, how to master it and how to stick to it until you've actually mastered it before you move on to another one. Because there's no use flitting around doing this and that, right? So do you want to start with that first, and then we do a Q&A?
Yeah, cool. I think...
Okay, far away.
Strategy. I mean, I actually talk about strategy a lot because my whole business is based on what I call portfolio management and what I call set and forget. Because I believe it doesn't matter what you're doing in property or any business really, you should be setting it up in order to forget about it on a day-to-day basis. And that means using other people's time, other people's money, all those concepts that I'm sure if you're here, you've probably heard of. But they are true. I think for me, the biggest thing is a lot of people in property, they choose to do refurbs, they choose to do rent to rent, they choose to do HMOs, they choose to do new build off land, whatever it is. And they think that's the only strategy and that's the best strategy possible. But the reality is, my chosen strategy and what I do is new build off plan. That's pretty much what I've done for, 20 years. It works for me. It's worked very well for me. Sometimes I can look and I can see, people doing HMOs and they're talking about 12% returns. And I think, I don't get that on my properties, in terms of a yield. And, the reality is here is you can make money in property 1,000 different ways. And the challenge is that you can get lured in by, slippery salespeople and, that tell you that you want to do this strategy and that strategy. And I call them deal hunters. And I think the mistake you make in property is if you start out looking for deals rather than fundamentals, and we'll come to the fundamentals in a sec, but the first thing you really should do is work out what your strategy is and what your unique strategy is. And actually, then once you know what that strategy is, whatever it is, and see the challenge is, even within new build off plan, there's 50 different strategies you're going to adopt. You can buy off plan and, flip before completion, depending on where the market's at. So there's strategies all over the place. You've got to find one that works for you. And then once you've nutted that down and you've got it, the key then is to know the rules of the game. Because you're not going to be successful if you don't know the rules of the game. Because what will happen is there'll be someone smarter than you that will take you to the cleaners. And whether that means they'll sell you something that looked like a deal that turns out to be, an abomination. So I think, for strategy, you've got to work out what that strategy is, know the rules of the game. And that means is obviously education. So coming along things like this, which are great. Reading books, getting around other people that do that. And for me personally, I think there's a lot of arrogance around property and that think, because people have to justify what they're doing is right, rather than being able to say, you know what, there's 1,000 different ways to make money in property. Everyone can do it. And as long as you're doing it right and knowing the rules of the game and applying it for that thing, then you can be successful, So I think that's, strategy, that's what I do. Do we want to get into specifically how I do my strategy in that, or I don't know how much depth we want to get into?
Yeah, it'd be good to know, Brett. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. So look, my strategy. I started off actually renovating. I would buy worst house, best street on the Gold Coast, and what I'd do is I literally became a real estate agent's bitch. Excuse the French for about 3 months. Every Friday, I would literally go to estate agents, and I would travel around estate agents, and literally from Friday sort of 10 a.m. in the morning, go and effectively, show my face, see what deals they had, go to lunch. And then the idea was by 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Fridays, when most Australians knock off work, I'd go out for beers with them and I'd be their best mate and buddy so that when that deal did come along, they gave it to me. And interesting, that was 3 months of hard slog. Every Friday I used to do it, as well as calls in between and viewings and that. And then in 1 week, I got 3 deals. So I was able to do all 3 of those deals. And literally all worst house, best street. What I did is I moved into the house and lived there while I stripped the place out and redid the whole thing. So I started off doing that, which I don't know, maybe some of you guys are doing that. I found that was quite intensive labor-wise. I remember going to the toilet and I realised that I'd knocked the toilet out that day and all I had was a hole, that sort of thing. I realised one time I got the idea that I had a wooden roof. So I thought, you know what, that'll look really good varnished, tanned and varnished. So I sat there and the whole place. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. I literally was there, the whole 4-bedroom house. I literally painted the whole thing, stained it and then varnished it. And, at the time, it sounded really good. It's not until you're actually sitting there for like 8 hours, a day for about 4 days, you realise that's a stupid idea. And so I started to get there's a better way of doing property. And for me, and the other thing we used to do, which was good, I had lots of mates. So I'd invite them over on a Sunday. I'd put beers on at a barbecue. They'd come, But that's then led me to new build off plan, because new build off plan, whilst I can make really good money out of that because I'm not putting a lot of time into it. So it's not very time intensive. And, when you talk about, other people's time, other people's money, for me, new build off plan worked really, really well. And so that's what I've done ever since. So literally what I do now is certain times of the market, I buy off plan and I may flip or I may complete. But most of the time I buy and hold. Buy and hold has been the best strategy for me, both in Australia and the UK and Spain. Unfortunately, there's no choice of buying and holding because the values have dropped so much. But the reality is, that's worked very well for me over the years. So that's pretty much what I do. I buy and I hold, and that's what I teach my investors to do. And so therefore it's got to be set and forget. It's got to be ease of ownership, because the people I work with and my clients don't have the time to do things. So I have another company called Easy Track Property Management, which manages property. So we manage 1,200 properties all over the UK. And we do everything for them, from paying bills to accepting mail through to the general, finding tenants, renting, all that sort of stuff. But yeah.
So this is the great part because Brett's a little bit humble in this area. So he created a company. So he didn't want his wife to tap into him and his resources. So he gave his wife this company that's got 1,200 properties under management. So would you like to know how much cash flow this property management company makes on a monthly basis that he's just handed to his wife? Right, maybe you'd like to explain that one.
To be fair, officially I don't know because it's not my company. No. The backstory of that was, as I'm sure most of you, the guys that are married and that, husband and wife, money issues come into it. And my wife wasn't working. She got out of work. She had her own business. We put that on the side because we're earning enough money. But every month she had to come to me and say, hey, I need money. She had a credit card, which was fine, but she'd say, hey, we need money for this, we need money for that. And for me, who's trying to grow businesses and do all this sort of stuff, I was like, it's a pain in the ass, excuse the French. So what I decided was I would just give her that business. It would pay her a wage every month, and then she doesn't need to come to me. And I tell you, it's the best business that I've ever created because, see, the other thing I do too, and when we talk about strategy, coming back to that, my first business was a property sales business. So basically, every month we start at zero, and I have a target, whether we reach that target or over the target, whatever. But what it means is you start from zero every month. That's stressful because Brexit and elections and all these sort of things affect that business, up and down. But the Easy Track business, the great thing about that is that every month I start at what it was last month. We have about a 2% dropout, a year of properties, which is nothing. When you've got 1,200 properties, that's absolutely nothing, and so that's people selling and all that sort of stuff. But in terms of the money that makes, it's a lot of money. Put it that way. It's in excess of £50,000 a month it makes. Sorry?
750.
No, 50.
50. That's what I thought, yeah. Nice.
750, yeah. And then, that goes up and down, but the reality is that grows continuously. So in 6 months' time, all the properties we've added to that, because we're continually adding to that, that just keeps going up. And so if you look at it, Fish is a business that it starts at zero and it makes whatever money. Yeah, I've got Easy Track, well, my wife has, which basically every month starts at whatever the previous month was. Yeah, and just continues to increase. Okay, it never really goes down because we just don't lose properties. And then I've got another business which is development, which is called Bash and Jack, and effectively that makes no money for ages. And then when we finally sell and complete on a development, then the money comes in. So my strategy is to have different types of income over a period of time. And by having that, it means that I'm never, if one of the businesses isn't doing too well. So one of the businesses we've just had a year where the MD wasn't right, the property director wasn't right. So we had to move both of those over, and I've had to jump back into business. So the income from that was down. So effectively, all we've done, I've survived off the other businesses, and that's one of the key strategies. But the mistake people make is they think they should have 3 or 4 businesses on the go very early on. My focus was I had one business, I made that successful, and then once that was successful, then I brought on other income streams.
Brett, does your wife still ask you for money?
No.
Brett asks his wife for money every now and again.
You know, they say happy wife, happy life. Since I did that, she doesn't. Actually, if anything, I ask her for money, and she's like, haven't got it. I know you have, because Camille, my finance director, actually looks over all the businesses. But no, it's an in-house joke. But what it has done, it's created where she doesn't have any stress about money. You know, she looks after the kids' education and the home sort of thing. I can be the traditional entrepreneur that goes and takes risks and all this sort of stuff. The point I'll make with risks, I'm not a gambler. You know, for me, the property investment is a mathematical equation. You know, 1 + 1 = 2. You know, and that happens every single time. Whereas most people do it, and what they do is they invest in the hope that it will come out. Yeah, and I don't think that's the way to do property investment. Yeah.
So just wrapping stuff that Brett's just said. You know, I'm very much into language and mindset, and if you listen to the language that Brett uses in terms of the things that he has, so one is strategy. He's a strategist. Secondly, he's very informed, and when he makes a decision, it's a calculated, informed decision. The risk is minimized because of the information he already has in hand. So, as you said, for most people, they'd see that as a risk. For him, it's not a risk because he's very informed. He knows the steps he's actually taking. He's putting a whole structure in place. So mindset is key. And if you listen to the words and not just what he's actually saying, what he's actually the meaning, there's a lot of in-depth stuff that's going here that you can learn from somebody. I'm learning just by sitting here and just listening to Brett. In fact, every time I sit with Brett, I learn something. Because for me, I want to sit next to people who can inspire me, that are better than me in different areas, because there's always a room for me to learn and enhance. And that's why I like mixing with people like Brett.
And that goes vice versa too, because one of the reasons I invite him to Spain and Singapore is because I get to have a few beers with him, and we get to talk about things like this. And we're in the same industry as such, which really, for me, we talk about property. Property is the product, yeah. And I think this is one of the keys. Property is the product, but actually, what we're in the industry of is helping people, and in the process of helping people, we get to live the lifestyle we want, we choose. And I think that's key, You can be very insular and very thinking, I'm going to make all this profit, I'm going to make all this money. You're never going to build a big business doing that, because eventually you're going to get to the limits of your competence, and then you're not going to grow any further. So you have to, at some point, if you want to live the lifestyle I'm sure you're all aiming for, you've got to help enough people to get what they want, and you'll get what you want. That's Ezekiel, by the way, said that, not me.
Great advice.
Well, if you look at the difference between Brett and myself, Brett is very much business, corporate, in terms of building a whole company and structure. I'm much more what I call insular, where I work with different people and network and build my own sort of mini teams. So Brett has a whole different philosophy around business. I go away for 6 months of the year. Brett doesn't quite do that, but he's away for 6 months of the year between the different countries and the different sort of businesses. So he has a different kind of structure and lifestyle. He has younger kids, so where he needs to be right now is in a different place. So where you are at life at any time will give you an idea of where you need to be and what sort of structure you want to do. But 3 pillars he's got. One is the sales income, one is the monthly cash flow from his business, and one is the large amounts. There's 3 pillars. So the large amount comes from the development side. And that's where you want to be. You want to be driving your business income from property in 3 different areas over time.
Yeah.
So your passive income is key. It's number 1. That gives you the flexibility to do what you want, when you want, wherever you want, wherever you want. Your passive income is number 1. Then your large income, your development income, takes 1, 2, 3 years. But when it comes in, 2, 3, 400,000 pounds at a time, that's really nice. And then you can have your business income as well. So you've got 3 pillars of income, and that's really important. You understand how to maximize your income through different pillars of income or different pillars of wealth.
And I think it's interesting too, because actually, so that's the businesses that I have. I've also got another agent. In fact, I've got a couple of other agencies that bring other in. So it doesn't mean I just have 3 businesses. But for instance, I just had my wine investment. So I was investing in shares. Shares stressed me out. I've never been so stressed in my life as investing in shares, because every day I wanted to watch them and they'd be up and down, and I'd be like, shit, I've lost money, I've gained money. And I was like, you know what, I'm going back to property. But actually I had this additional money, so I was like, let me put it into something else. I've heard wine's, something like property. So I invested in wine. Invested in wine for 10 years. Got to the point where I looked at my whole portfolio over 10 years and I went, you know what, it hasn't made me anywhere near the money that I would have made if I had just bought. I could have bought 3 London properties and they would have gone like tremendous. Whereas this, I barely got away with making a profit on my wine. So actually I just sold out of it, but now I'm putting that money back in the shares, believe it or not. But I've actually given it to my wife, and so she invests in shares because I don't want to know about it, And that's one of the great things is when you get additional money, discretionary money, if you like, you can do other things with it. You can do fun stuff, So we're about to, and we've just been exploring into an Amazon business. Why? Because I think e-commerce, and I want to do an e-commerce business for ages, but I'm like, I can be arrogant and think, I can do an e-commerce site and get the traffic and all this sort of stuff. Or I can join with Amazon, who already have the traffic, already have the framework, the business model, the structure, and I can just join into that, and right off the back of that. And one of the keys here, you can be an arrogant prick and say, I can do better, or you can go to where there's already a successful route and just run on that road, And I think that's one of the keys too. You don't have to create something new. I mean, it'd be great to think of Facebook, and be able to create the next Facebook. But in the absence of being able to do that, and, very few people do, sometimes it's better just to go, you know what, there's the trodden path, it works, and then just do it.
Does that help?
Very much, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any questions?
Any questions? You're all bamboozled.
This year we've got that clause 24.
Okay, clause 24. I don't know that Brett would know a lot about clause 24.
My question is, where properties, because I know these Blackfish properties, I'm subscribed to that. I just wanted to understand which areas of the UK he considers for buy-to-lets this year.
Okay, the question is, guys, with the 1,200 properties that you have out there, Brett, Ela would like to know what you would consider to be the best area for buy-to-lets right now, and how you would look at purchasing them because of the new tax changes with clause 24, etc. Both of you might be able to.
So my answer to that would be, I don't know for you individual, I don't know your individual circumstances, and I would need to find that out before I can say the best area. Because, see, for instance, if you're one of my city boys, what I call financial professionals, who earns, 800 grand a year, and you're getting a bonus of, 400 grand, in March, whatever, you're in a different situation than, say, if you're a mum and dad who's got 2 kids, struggling along, both got jobs, haven't got the time to do it. It's all good to say, well, actually, you know what, this is the best area to invest. But you know what? That may not be the best area to invest for everybody. And so one of the things I do is, I do a lot of tracking. So if you go on my website, I've written over 150 guides, property investment guides. They're all freely downloadable. So you can pick the postcode and have a look at basically what it goes through is the fundamentals of an area. But what I do is I do 2 things. So it's property trend cycle. So what I do is I look at the property cycle, and then I call what's called a ripple effect pentagon. So it starts at London Zone 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, major cities, commuter towns within 90 minutes, major cities, and then major towns. And I follow the ripple around in those areas. And by doing that, I can adjust my strategy to meet the market. So coming back to strategy again, it's one of the keys. It's all good to say this is my strategy, but you can adjust that to meet the market, and that means you may, right now I may say, you know what, Wolverhampton, best place to buy. I'm not saying that, but best place to buy. You know what? If you don't act for 6 months, you may miss that, and then it's not the best place to buy anymore. The other side of it is you may be buying because, say, for instance, in Stratford years ago, when the Olympics got announced, everybody jumped in, and overnight, prices grew £20,000. I know because we actually were doing a deal on 40 units there, and the prices went up by £20,000, and that was happening. Now, all great, because there was something unique, and a lot of people said, see, I chose that because I bought in Stratford. No, you gambled, because we could have missed out on the Olympics. But so there's things like that. But for me, what I looked at with Stratford was long-term fundamentals because of the regeneration. No problems buying there. Same with we do stuff in Greenwich. We've been doing Greenwich for 12 years now. I've been investing in Greenwich. Now, so what is the best area? I don't know. But it changes all the time. And actually, there's no one best area. There's multiple best areas. Yeah.
So just covering a couple of bits, because Brett does speak fast when he's excited. So he's written over 100 reports. It's free on his website. So you guys need to do that first and foremost. But secondly, and more importantly, he gave you the strategy of what he looks at about an area. That's some really key fundamental information. We talked about the ripple effect, the different zones. And if you know that in your area, the area that you're going to invest in, the area that you're going to buy, the area that you're going to rent in, that's going to help you tremendously. So those reports are available. So what's the website they need to go to get that?
Just gladfish.com.
So gladfish.com. E-L-A-D, gladfish.com. You go and get the reports and you'll understand that strategy that you just explained in the last couple of minutes is worth tens of thousands of pounds of how to understand that strategy. Most people that invest in property have no strategy. They have no idea why they're investing. They're sheep. They follow what everybody else is doing. So there's got some key fundamentals. Brett says he's informed, he's educated, and that's why he's able to make a calculated risk on his investments. That message keeps coming through over and over again. And you guys, if you're not picking it up, this is the area that I hopefully pick up, is explain it a little bit simpler, a little bit slower, so you pick up that information, because it's so key. It's so key for investing in property. So whether you're buying to buy and hold, or you're buying to invest to develop or refurbish, those key fundamentals are really important in your selected area.
And I'll give you an example. Manchester right now, okay, the stuff that I'm looking at in the new build, okay, so, second-hand market is a little bit different, but what I'm noticing is the secondary market, this is the price, and the new build market has got up here for the price. And so for me, actually in some of this is about a 30% difference in price. Now for me, I go, you know what? I could buy that, and I can be distracted by saying, but the developer will give me a 10% discount. I can be distracted by the fact that the developer's just gone out to Singapore and Hong Kong and sold 50 of these units at those prices. And so I can go, well, actually, you know what? I can justify that to my investors, but I'm not, because when I look at this, I think, you know what? When that starts to happen, you know what I do? I go, actually, let me look at the next place, and this is a ripple effect. Let me look at the fundamentals and where the fundamentals are ripple out. What do I mean by fundamentals? Shops, schools, transport links, major employees, major investment. Yeah, they're the 5 things I look at when I talk about fundamentals. But when I research fundamentals, I do them backwards. So investment is the most important, and then back to shops, schools, transport links, major employees, major investment is how I say it. Then I do it backwards. Yeah, and if you research those in each area and you look and go, actually, you know what? The price differential is too much. I go to the next place with the next best fundamentals where the prices haven't done that, and that's where I start to invest. And so my definition of a hotspot, a hotspot in 3 to 5 years, not a hotspot in the newspapers today because I've already missed those price increases.
So just so you know, with Brett, he speaks pretty fast, right? So when he's had a couple of these, he talks even faster. So you're getting the best of the best right now, because in a couple of hours, I won't even be able to understand him.
I can't fully understand him. It's a good speed for me.
Yeah.
All right, any questions, guys? There's some awesome little snippets there. Does that help you?
Yeah. What was the fourth fundamental?
So I was going to say, one more link that I was going to say. If you type in property trend cycle into Google or property trend cycle ebook, download that ebook and that'll explain my property trend cycle. Yeah. The other one is the ripple effect. If you type that into Google, you can have a read about that. Yeah, and that'll give you the sort of broad base of what I use when we talk about strategy for investment, and it applies to all strategies. It's not just to new build off plan.
So this is for anything you may have missed. This is all recorded, and it'll be on our YouTube channel. So you'll get that. You just have to subscribe to it, and you'll get it. But I'll send out the link to you guys when they're finished. Any other questions? Before they have too many beers, there it goes.
Investment, employees, schools.
Okay, so can we just quickly, slowly go through the 5 fundamentals, please? Number 1,
Shops.
shops. So it could be new shopping centres, that type of thing. Is that what you mean, Brett?
So if you're talking about an individual property, is there a shop within walking distance for your bread, paper, milk? Yeah, so that's at the smaller level. Is there a shop you can drive for your regular shopping, and that sort of stuff? So obviously, if it doesn't have it, it's not that you don't buy there, yeah, but it's just an indicator. So overall, you've got to make a decision. Is this worth investing in? Is this somewhere that somebody's going to actually want to rent? Is this somewhere where somebody's going to want to buy because if you want to resell it? Yeah. So stuff like that. So that's shops. Okay. Then you've got schools. Okay. And obviously primary, secondary, and tertiary. And then you've got shop, schools, transport links. Yeah. So, from airports to roads to train to all that sort of stuff, and how far are they away? Yeah, major employers. Now, for instance, if you do an area and there's only one major employer and they employ 80% of the population, be very careful there, because as an investment, if they go bust, as happened in the recession, all of a sudden those properties won't get rented. Yeah, so I like to get a good mix of employers. Yeah, and that's one of the things I say with the major towns. So when I talk about the ripple effect Pentagon, I talk about major towns with more than 100,000 population. So I don't really invest in anything with less than 100,000 population. Yeah, it's just not on my radar. Yeah, so shops, schools, transport links, major employers, and then major investment. So one of the keys, I go for lots of regeneration. So for instance, we've sold over 200 properties at Royal Arsenal, Riverside, Berkeley Homes. One we've done. I think it was 176 properties in Kidbrook. Like major regeneration areas. Wembley. We moved the office there. I think we did 80 odd properties that we've sold there. Because one of the things I like to do, and one of the easiest way to make money for me in a new build strategy, is to go to regen areas. Where they're good quality developers, and you can see, over that growth, that uplift.
Great. Does that help? Help Nina to get those?
Yeah.
Martina, got a question?
How does he look for the regeneration areas? Because once the regeneration plans have been announced, it's usually the prices will go up, don't they?
Okay. How do you sort of analyse the regeneration areas? And so one of the statements was because once the regeneration is announced, before it even starts, prices start to go.
Yeah. So
how can you get in before that? I doubt you can, but you may know.
Well, okay. So there's two things about regeneration. There's planned and there's funded. Okay. So a lot of people will put, and I'll give you an example. Convoy's Wharf in London has been planned, and it actually had the approval for a decade now. Okay. But it hasn't been funded. So it's sitting there undone. It's not done. So we didn't jump on that. The key here, and this is where, I spend a bit of time too, and get around the right people. So for instance, if I want to know about the regeneration of East London, say, okay, I went out with one of the directors at Barclay Homes, and I took him out for lunch. And what I said is, I really want to know about what's happening in East London. So all I did is I said, how about we meet here and we do a bit of a pub crawl down, I can't remember the name of the street now, the main street.
Pub crawl.
He's like the boy, what's his name, the chef?
I'm Aussie.
Yeah.
No, but no. So we did it. We basically, and we didn't do a pub crawl again. We started at one end, and effectively what happened, we drove in a taxi to the other end of the street, the other end of the road. You know, it was about 10k long. And what he did, he knew all of the planning, and he said that's getting built into 60 stories, 60 units, that's being pulled down. That's, that'll eventually go. This will. So when we looked at the street, if you drove down the street, it was decrepit and old buildings, and you'd go. Most people would look at that and go, "No way you invest there. How terrible would it be?" Yeah. Whereas I drove down there and I look at it and go, that's got planning, that's got planning, that's got planning. You know what? There's so much happening in this area that's going to attract developers. I'm going to get in there now, and I'm going to start, looking at these places, and that's what I do. So, if you want to get ahead of the market, you better be prepared to do some research and get in there. It's the same with when I spent time with the estate agents. It's not that I really liked them and liked spending time with them. It's because they held the keys to me getting the opportunities before everyone else. So if you want to do that, you can wait till the property launches happen, and you can wait until they get on the websites. But by that stage, you're already paying for somebody else's commission. To get in early, you're going to have to do the hard yards and do the research.
So just to cover a couple other bits again that was actually talked about. So first and foremost is, who does he associate with? Director at Barclay Homes. They say shit sticks, so does success. So be careful who you associate with. There's a saying that whoever you spend your most amount of time with, the most 5 people you spend your time with, your income is going to be within 20% up or down, or the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with. So it's really important that you who you spend your time with. Does that help?
Thanks. Any other questions? That's great. Great answers. Any other questions? Nothing burning in your mind that you want to ask 2 property experts worth tens of millions of pounds? Nothing that you can think of right now? You're bamboozled?
Okay. How do you stay strong when shit's not going right?
So Wayne's question is, how do you stay strong, and I'll interpret, when shit doesn't go your way?
So I think the first thing is, what is it, make hay when the sun shines? No. Yeah, make hay when the sun shines. Rather than waiting until the shit hits the fan, you prepare for the shit hitting the fan beforehand. So, for instance, I just don't have one stream of income. I have multiple streams of income. If one of those falls over, has a bit of a hiccup, if Brexit happens, if all these sort of whatever happens, tax changes, Section 24s, whatever it is, it's not my sole source. But, that's I think the key thing. But also to back yourself. If you're educated enough, and this is the thing. I cannot say enough. I read books like they're going out of fashion. I have a thing called Blinklist, which reads audio books to me. My phone, if I turn it on right now, you'll see I've been listening to Blinklist all morning. I'm highly educated about a broad range of topics. So, and then I'm experienced on top of that. So it's not just about reading, it's about actually doing. Yeah. And when you've got those 2 things together, when the shit does hit the fan, you can draw on all those resources, those experiences to go, you know what, I'm not worried about this, bang. And I'll give you an example. When the recession hit, there was so much competition in new build off plan. Everybody was doing it. Everybody was, there. All of a sudden, everybody jumped out of it because who wants to do new build? And what I did is I went, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stick to it because it's what I know. And I know that all these developers have to sell their stock. They're going to sell through me. Yeah. And so I doubled down on our strategy, even though I had, at that stage, we were doing PR, and I had guys, journalists saying, he's a freaking idiot, that, new build's dead, all this sort of stuff. I doubled down on it, and you know what? We had, the business grew tenfold. We went from being probably the 4th or 5th largest to being the largest within 6 months because everybody else jumped out. And a lot of those companies that jumped out, they jumped into new strategies where they hadn't built any momentum. So actually they ended up falling over. So yeah.
A good question that people might be thinking right now, and something that Immanuel and I did a webinar on last night, is how can you start with very little of your own money or none in property?
Can you repeat the question?
We just lost you.
How most people, when they want to come into property, they have very little or no money, but they need to make money. They have a burning desire to change their life, to get out of their day job, which they find laborious in most cases. They hate their day job, but they can't see anywhere where to start. They go on 100 courses. They hear this all day, every day. So fundamentally, they need to raise money without actually having any experience or any track record in property. And Immanuel shared what we do last night, and I'm just interested to hear your view of that as well, please, Brett.
Yeah, so the obvious things are, you've got to be educated. You've got to get around the right people who are going to do that. So there's all that sort of stuff. I think what you've got to do, coming back to strategy or a plan, you've got to know how much you want. See, the problem I have is, and I get this all the time, where I'll have clients who email me and will say, I haven't really got a lot of money. I'm really keen to do this. I've been to all the seminars. I've done all this sort of stuff. And then, it's like they don't tell me how much they want. They don't tell me their strategy. They don't have any plan. They can tell me what they don't want, but they can't tell me what they do want. And unless you've got a specific plan, and what I'm talking about here is if you want somebody with money seriously to listen to you, then make sure when you go to them, you have that plan and with enough detail that they go, you know what, this guy's put the effort in. Because you know what, so many times I look at these stupid emails that I just look at these people and think, you're a frigging idiot. You're saying you've done all the seminars and courses and all the read all the books, and yet you haven't applied one of them. Yeah. And so what I'd say is sometimes, there's an element of stop going to frigging seminars and take the lessons in those seminars and apply them. Yeah. So that's sort of, then it's just about, if you've got the plan, you've got to go and get the network of people who can actually either introduce you, and this is where you can't, if you walk up to a multimillionaire and say, lend me money, he's going to say, classic example, one of my mates the other day wanted to borrow $10,000 from me, Aussie dollars. I said to him, fine. I said, give me your assets, your liabilities, your income and expenses statement, and I want all your bank statements for the last 6 months. And then he got the shits over, well, why do you need that? And I'm like, you're asking me for 10 grand. And you know why? Because I know where his money's gone. He's not disciplined with it. He goes out and drinks it, whatever, So you can't, if you want to get the money and you don't have it, there's a reason why you don't have it. So you've almost got to become, and look, there's an element of fake it till you make it too. But fake it till you make it, but make sure you back it up with bloody hard work, work your guts out, because I don't care. This, law of attraction, as long as I think I want, I'm going to get it, it's going to appear. There's that, but there's also, massive action. Yeah. And really, getting around the right people, massive action, having a really specific plan where all the details are covered. Yeah.
So this is the reality. If you haven't got money and you want to get money, you get money from lots of different ways. So I've been privileged enough to be taught by some of the great teachers around the world. But it comes down to a few fundamentals. First and foremost, you've got to be honest. You've got to have integrity. You've got to be informed. And you've got to really want it. You're going to have to really, really want to do it. Tony Robbins says it's never a lack of resources, there's a lack of resourcefulness. And that really is true. You've got to have those fundamentals. If you want people to invest with you or through you, if you don't have honesty and integrity, they'll come back and bite you in the ass. I just did a joint venture with somebody else where I lent them the money and I brought one of my investors through. The project didn't reach what it should have done. I gave my investor everything that I said that the project was going to do and took a less of a profit. You know why? Because I have my honesty, I have my integrity, I have my relationships to build, and they'll invest with me again. They will never invest through the other person, and their intention was to invest many times with the other person. So they've lost that avenue of income stream for years to come, and I've actually bought that by just taking away a little bit less profit, by having that honesty and integrity. And it's not the first time I've done that. I've done that many times over. So you've got to come from that place of being honest and having that integrity, but also being informed, being knowledgeable. Because even if you don't have the money, people will invest through you if they trust you and if they like you. That's been my experience. And it continues to be my experience. Because I've also gone through bad times. You know, in 2008, where the market crashed, I went through my divorce, I lost my mortgage business, and I had a developer embezzle £1 million from me, all within the same week. So mine's not all a success story. I've had many failures and many failures. But it's your mindset that helps you overcome that. It's all the knowledge that you have. If you go to somebody that's made money and they've lost it, they'll tell you it doesn't bother them that much because they have all the information that allow them to get to that place in the first place. They can just accelerate it the second time round. You know, Richard Branson has done it. Alan Sugar's done it. Donald Trump has done it. There's many, many, many people that have had many failures but have accelerated that wealth second time around because they've got that information. They've got the mindset, they've got the knowledge, they've got the information, they've got the honesty, the integrity, and the knowledge, and the contact base.
Boys, we'll do one last question because I know that you've got other things that you need to discuss.
We do.
So let's finish up. When's a good time to start in property?
Well, for me, there's a saying that goes like this: don't wait to start to get into property, get into property and wait. And that really is true. The best time is always right now, provided you do it informed, with the right knowledge, the right information, the right area. It's always the right time right now, if you know what to buy and where to buy with the right strategy.
That's right. You just got to have the strategy that meets the market for now. You know, and if you do that, then it's always now. You know, now does that mean you just jump into the first deal you come across? No, it doesn't. You know, and that's the mistake I think people make is, you know, there's a lot of salespeople out there that make commission, and you know, one of the things I always do, I always work out where the commission or the money is flowing. So I want to know who's getting paid and what the advisors. You know, my trusted advisor's fine, but I'll still second guess everything they say if I don't understand something. The only way you lose money in property is by signing something you don't understand. Yeah. So whatever you do, if you don't understand it, ask questions and ask and ask and ask. And you know what? If you lose a deal because of it, great. Because that potentially was the deal that would take away, you know, it's a lot harder to build the capital up at the start. You know, it's very easy to lose it. Yeah. So, you know, losing a deal or an opportunity, there's thousands of opportunities. They come along every day. The best deal in property comes along every day. Yeah. And that's my attitude. You know, if you miss one today, the next one will be just as good, if not better, along tomorrow. And the next day. And the next day. Yeah.
Good refreshing for some of us.
Yeah.
Good. That's been fantastic. Thank you very much. Big round of applause. Enjoy your trip to Spain. I would like an invitation for the next one. Thank you.
You need to qualify.
Thanks, sweetheart. See you later. Bye.